earthquake shakes the Mojave. 7.4 on the Victors. That's powerful, man. 24 seconds. That's what it took. Listen. 1, 2, 3. How about you take our picture? 5. This is my sister. 6. This is for you. 7. 8.
We got married.
9. 10. 11. Nothing happened, man. You're too easy to rile up. You call me a liar. 15. 16.
Want to report a disturbance.
24.
Hi, Joshua. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you. Congratulations on a desert. How does it feel to have it coming out into the world finally?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I'm super
Yeah.
excited for people to see it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, hopefully they're seeing it in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Just
I
be, yeah.
Yeah, I will say I did watch it on headphones in my house, but let me just say the sound design in this film is absolutely gorgeous on headphones. I know it's not ideal, but it's
Well, at
such
least
a
you watch
cool
it with
world.
headphones, though. I mean, we worked really hard on the sound design, so
Yeah, I wanted to hear more about that because again, like there's like a really awesome score and jazz music, but also just the way you have the voices and then the nature sound. So tell me more about working on the sound design because it really is such a huge part of this like emotional experience of watching this
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the things that's, I think that's unique about the desert and in that environment, especially that area, is that there's these weird, these this like sort of contrasting elements. Like at times it can be super, super quiet, right? But
Yeah.
other times it's a train, a highway, dirt bikes, all this sort of cacophony, old shitty fans and broken, like half working air conditioning units and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I love the aspect of like playing with that and then trying to like further manipulate it in the sort of sound field where when somebody goes inside to like the motel in particular, it's like all of a sudden the sound feels like the sound is like sucked out of it. But there's
Yeah.
still this weird, surreal floatiness of the outside environment. So that was something
Oh,
that I worked really hard with our awesome sound designers on.
that
And then
sounds
just
so
like
cool.
trying to make some bold choices on some of the music where we're putting in certain channels and the audio. I mean, I come from music background, so it's like I
Yeah,
love
I was gonna say your
um,
music background, right? You've done a lot of music videos, right? This kind of
done a
like
lot
where
of
you
music
got is.
videos. I played in, band for a long time,
Okay.
and like some of my favorite part about that stuff is like being in the recording studio. Not that we were ever spent that much time in there because we were making punk records, but
Hell yeah.
I love being like in mixing. Sometimes it would
Yeah.
be annoying for other people because I'm like super particular and I get I love being in the lab, it just is so fun.
Yeah. So
Because
cool.
you can really bring all of this other aspect into it. Um
Yeah.
yeah, so
So
yeah, the sound was like a big part on that. We worked really hard on that in the score. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean it really pays off too. But where did you film it then? What desert? Where exactly is
Yeah,
this?
so we shot all over. We went mostly in Southern California. We didn't end up going out
Okay.
any further into like Nevada, but it
Okay.
is basically Mojave Desert.
Okay.
So we're everywhere from Mojave to 29 Palms to
Okay, cool.
Landers to further out. Um, God,
Was it
like
miserable filming in the desert?
well, we shot in July and
Ooh.
and
Ooh.
it was. I mean, anywhere from like 111 to like there was one day we shot and it was like 118. And thankfully it was just like we were shooting landscapes and like our B-roll, but
Oh, okay. A little bit
it was
better.
108. Yeah, a lot of the shots um that are early on in the film and the camera would overheat. We could shoot for like 2 or 3 minutes and then we'd have to jump back in the car and blast the AC, cool the camera down, and then like jump out, shoot for another couple minutes before it would overheat again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. So I love the desert as a setting in horror. I feel like it's not utilized. I know a lot of classic horror films like Texas Chainsaw are in the desert, but it's not used a lot. I was curious what drew you to using it because it is such a great setting for
Yeah.
like a bizarre, surreal genre experience.
Well, I've been going out there for a really long time,
Okay.
and I started getting fascinated by. I've lived in Southern California my whole life.
Okay.
Uh, when I was in film school, I was location scouting for a project that I was, cinematographer on. It was somebody else's project, but I found these like really weird guys that lived out on the outer fringes of this like dry lake bed, and I got really fascinated by them. And a friend of mine and I at the time were like, we should make a documentary about these guys. We never finished it, but we spent a lot of time out there with these weird guys that lived on the outskirts of this dry lake bed in these like
Lovely.
this weird makeshift community of like trailers that had been connected together, and then they would fly these like they're called like ultralight airplanes. So imagine like a go-kart version of an airplane, and they basically would fly in the morning, get fucked up throughout the rest of the day, then fly a little bit more. And I got stories from them, and so some of that's in the movie.
What?
Uh,
That's
but
so, what's wild? That's
yeah, it was
so
really,
cool.
yeah, yeah, there were some real characters, and it'd be like anything from a guy. There was like a guy that was out there that kind of owned the property, and he was like a 60-year-old guy, and he had connected these trailers together in a way. And but he had gotten like encephalitis when he was like 10 or 11, so he kind of stopped emotionally developing. But he was a 6-year-old man, and so he had these rooms and these interconnected trailers that was like one room was like he called it like the eternal Christmas tree, and it was just a Christmas morning set up always, where he only ate the same like TV dinner, and so he had like 100 boxes of like the same Swanson's TV dinner. Anyway, because I got so into these guys and driving around and driving out there, and I also have photography background, so I would take photographs, and I just kept going out there. And I felt like there was something that I needed to keep discovering. So I shot some music videos years later out there. I shot some short films out there, and this is kind of the culmination of all of that experience, kind of baked into
Okay.
them. Yeah.
Cool. Because I was going to ask, like, I feel like whenever I talk to people about the desert, it's one of the weirdest places. I feel
Yeah.
it feels like a weird liminal space, and it's such an. I have not spent a lot of time in and around deserts, so they're also very fascinating to me as almost like a mythical thing as an East Coaster. So I'm like, are they real? It's like so silly, but it's like in my head, it's like it's kind of they seem so magic to me in a weird way, and so
Well,
this
they,
film
well,
captures that, I think, and like it's in a terrifying way. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
well,
Like,
I appreciate you saying that because they are magic, and but
yeah.
what's interesting about it and what I was trying to explore in the movie is this weird contrasting elements of like it's really quiet, it's really loud, it's really hot, it's really cold. It's transcendent, there's people that go out there for this transcendental experience of whatever spiritualism, Ramalama that they're looking for, but it's also like base level primordial brutal shit,
Yeah.
scorpions
Yeah.
and rattlesnakes, but also just like dream catchers and science fiction and westerns and all of these weird contrasting elements. Um, and yeah, that's all like stuff that is what partially excited me
Cool.
about it for all these years. And now I
That's
never want to go
amazing.
back because I've
Yeah.
spent
You're like, I'm done with the desert. No more. I've investigated it enough. I don't
yeah,
need to go any further into the
yeah, yeah, I'm
desert.
good.
But I really love your cast, especially I think Kai Lennox as our lead, at least our lead for a
Yeah.
bit. And I wonder, it's so funny because I've seen him in so much, and I feel like he's that character actor that you're familiar with. But I was really excited to see him in a role like this. What was that like casting him and putting him in kind of our narrator seat, at least for
Yeah.
part of the film?
I mean, I felt really lucky to have met Kai and for him to like want to play this character. Um, I think there's a lot of personal stuff that he brings to it as we started talking, because he's got some experience as a photographer. Like he's got a great eye, but he also is like a huge jazz fan. So to like know that as
Oh.
well, and he's an artist in his own right, as an actor, and so I think there's a lot that like resonated with him and the character, and that was
Cool.
as we talked about it. I think I just really lucked out, because he's so dedicated and committed to the part. I think really got it. I think
Yeah.
he really connected with the character and like what I was trying to, some of the ideas that I was trying to convey with the character.
Yeah, and I like because it's like one of these films, especially at the beginning when it's just him by himself and it's a lot of him in his own head. And I'm always so interested to hear from directors about what it's like to direct these kinds of scenes where it's like helping the actor with the interiority and getting into that headspace. Like what was that like for you? Especially it's your first feature. What was that experience like going from your previous experience to this and directing him through these interior moments?
Yeah, I think it's like the ideas are already kind of there on this in the script, and
Yeah,
do a little bit of, we do a bunch of the work beforehand and just talking about who the character is and sort of where he's at.
cool.
And so in the moment of actually capturing them when we're shooting, it just becomes, kind of just second nature because we've kind of already had those conversations.
Cool.
Uh, but I think the other thing that inform it gives you that other layer of the interior dialogue is how the editing functions in a lot of those.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah.
kind of cross-cutting, and there's a very deliberate editing style that's happening in that part of the movie. And that was something that we discovered in the edit room,
Oh,
with our
cool.
editor. That was an idea that he had, and there's a couple of film references where we were like, there's a Kiyoshi Kurosawa movie, Cure, that employs a similar
Stop.
style.
That's one of my all-time favorite
Yeah.
movies. It is such an incredible film.
And then also Steven Soderbergh's The Limey does something like
Cool.
that, and then John Borman's Point Blank does something like that. And these are crime movies, and
Yeah.
so like kind of in the same zone as our movie. And so it felt right filmically, but also contextually. And that was something that I think adds to like that what that internal dialogue is like you can do it
Yeah.
no other way, with movies. It's so cool.
Yeah. And I was curious there, it sounds like you've pulled from real life, which sometimes stranger can be stranger than fiction, but were there other characters or stories that influenced you at all about any of the characters you put into your film?
Yeah. Oh man. Let me think. I mean, there's a couple of scenes that are definitely from experiences I've had. Um,
Cool. That's wild that you get to like put that into the world on film, even though it's like a
yeah.
fictionalized. That's wild.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're yeah, I mean, some of the characters are like representative of like either archetypes or concepts. So
Yeah.
it's a little tricky to answer. Like I think
Yeah,
maybe
that's fair.
obviously like the photographer character I have like a real kinship with because of how I started writing the script and making the photographs before I started writing the script and my relationship to the desert and all of that.
Cool.
And yeah, I mean, like, and I mentioned these weirdos on the out of the outside of this dry lake bed. I mean, there's the party scene, and like, they give him this like moonshine, and like one of the things that happened to me while I was out there with these like weird desert guys, has the guy who offered me some of his moonshine that he'd made, and I drank it, and then the rest of the time. I was, people were like, I can't believe you did that. Like, you could go blind. And then I spent the rest of the day, like, genuinely scared that I was like, oh man, like, I drank Bob's moonshine. Like, am I going to go blind? Like, I can't go blind. I need my eyes. This is what I do. And I was like really freaked out about it. Like overly dramatic, not like freaking out, but like inside, I was just
Yeah.
like, rubbing my eyes, like, is everything okay? You know, uh,
Oh my God.
but, you know, He was really excited though about this new batch of moonshine that he made because um, he got a new filter and I asked him what the filter was and he's like, "Oh, my I took a pair of my wife's pantyhose." But it tasted like maple syrup and that's the line in the movie.
Yep.
So,
I was gonna say, it tastes like maple syrup. It's so
yeah,
funny. I had a friend who
yeah,
made moonshine once too, and we tried it at a party, and I was like, "Oh, I love this experience of someone bringing homemade alcohol to a party."
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
funny. Um, well, thank you so much for chatting
Yeah.
about a desert. I love a good desert genre crime thing, and I really
Yeah.
love the way you capture the desert. You make it seem so alluring yet terrifying.
Yes. Yeah. It's because it is.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you so much.